We have talked about commandlets a little bit. I want to go a little bit deeper into commandlets and distinguish them from other things that you might see in PowerShell. All commandlets, and I mean all commandlets as far as I know, all have this format. They start with a verb. Now sometimes it's not a real verb, but it acts as a verb. It tells PowerShell to do something. And then a dash, and then a noun. But there's something interesting about that noun. First of all, it may have a prefix. I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Second, it's always singular. And then third, it describes what we're acting on. And then, of course, we have those parameters behind it and then the arguments behind it. So here's an example of that. Get process. And you notice it doesn't say get processes. It says get process. This was done on purpose by Microsoft to make sure that we don't get confused. We don't say get services. Let's see, is it get service or get services? I can't ever remember. Well, you can remember because it's always singular. Now, I also mentioned the prefix. In the case of some modules, for example, if I am on a server, I'm going to have these AD or Active Directory modules in here. Now, I don't have one in my PowerShell because I don't have Active Directory running on this system. If I did, I would have PowerShell commands that have been imported, a new module of PowerShell commands that would all start with AD. So I'd have something like new AD user or get AD user, for example. Typically you won't see these prefixes in the PowerShell that you have now. If I just ask for all the commands, you won't see those kinds of prefixes, but you will see all these verbs, verb-noun. And like I said, sometimes you won't see, sometimes it won't be an actual verb. Let me see if I can find one that is not an actual verb. New is not a verb. So new service, that means make a new service. So in a sense, it's kind of like a verb. But anyway, that's how these things work. It's critical that you supply spaces. I've said that before, between the commandlet and the parameter, and then between the parameter and the arguments. If you were to write a PowerShell commandlet of your own, and it is possible to do that, by the way, you can write it in a .NET compatible language, any .NET compatible language, C++, for example. So these things are typically written in C++, by the way. All right, next we're going to talk about functions in the next video.